Hi, everyone. This is Russian Hurley, and you have joined the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley for our weekly meeting. Thank you very much for being a part of what we do to serve the world. Rotary is all about service above self, and we have a particular interest in innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. And this week, we have with us Kat Crawford. And Kat is in Austin, Texas. She has done a number of different things, but her focus now is on possibilities for kids who are in secure settings. This includes incarcerated kids, and she can give you much more detail about that. But the opportunity to bring creative possibilities to those kids is something that I think would be near and dear to many, many hearts, and we are very happy to have her. So with that, I am going to hand it over to you, Kat. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and share some of the projects that we do. So I'm going to share my screen. And the project I wanted to share with you guys today is called the Unbound Readathon. And our Unbound Readathon is one of our many initiatives that we host. And this one's going to be taking place the month of February. It's actually our 5th year hosting the Unbound Readathon. So let me tell you a little bit about our organization. As you mentioned, I'm Kat Crawford. I'm the Director of Technology Solutions for the Center for Educational Excellence in Alternative Settings. We're a nonprofit organization that works to improve education inside of juvenile justice facilities. And over the past 7 years, I've worked in 39 different states in some capacity to improve education, usually through technology. But we also provide a lot of curriculum initiatives and contests throughout the year to provide high quality curriculum and education for teachers to infuse into their classrooms. And Unbound is one of those. About 5 years ago, I asked my boss if we could host a readathon because we had a couple of schools come to us and say, you know what, our security officers won't let our kids read books. They view them as weapons. And we wanted to create an initiative that might give people a chance to pause and think about some of the security violations that they were integrating into their schools. And so this one was very near and dear to our heart because we know the importance of literacy. And so we asked all schools that wanted to participate to basically allow books for 30 days. And we decided to host this in February, and we reached out to Scholastic, and they help us by providing a bundle of books. As you see here in this picture, the gentlemen at this facility in Kentucky are unpacking their books and taking a picture of them. And this kind of gets the project started. So each school that signs up receives a bundle of up to 200 books that the students can use to kickstart the initiative. And we look at the average number of minutes read by each student so that it's really fair to all of our readers at all different levels to be successful in the readathon. One of the first things we do in the readathon is we ask students to take a picture of themselves unboxing their books, and this was last year's winner. As you can see here, they got super creative. And a lot of our students and schools have policies around keeping their faces covered. And so you're gonna see that in some of the pictures that I share today is ways that we find creative to share what's happening and celebrate reading, but without revealing the identity of our students. So last year, our readathon, our students read 5,123 books. And that was a huge accomplishment for us. One of the reasons that I love Unbound is it encourages kids to read all different types of books. So we send them graphic novels that some kids have never been exposed to so that they can get really interested in different topics. Typically they're around civil rights issues. So the book March, they love that one. And we give each group a different genre to focus on. So we hope the students get inspired about different genres through their reading. So another reason I love this project is that we recognize students who have made successful gains during this project that maybe they haven't made before. And so as you can see on this slide, we have another one of our pictures. This was actually the winner from 2 years ago. And this is an all-boys facility in Alaska. And what they're sharing here at the bottom is a teacher writing about a student who had never finished a whole book before. And this student wound up on discipline and ended up having some extra time to read, and started with the Hunger Games and finished the entire series and then moved on to Harry Potter. And so just this initiative really sparked an interest in this student to start reading. And not only did he finish his first book, but he finished 7 books by the end of the month. And he also started carrying around a small paperback dictionary because he wanted to improve his vocabulary. And to me, that's what this initiative is all about. So one of the other ways we engage kids and incentivize them is by asking them to write book reviews during the project. And so if you visit this slideshow and click on this slide, it will take you to our book review page, and you can see some of the winning book reviews from last year. We also think this encourages other kids to read by seeing what books are of interest to other kids who are locked up across the US. Because we typically have about 40 to 45 different states participating in the initiative. And it's nice to be able to see what your peers are interested in reading. So there are 2 volunteer opportunities that I think would help really engage this community in the community that I work with, that is typically very siloed and isolated, but is so welcoming to see what other people are doing and understand that they are feeling supported by that community to really continue their education. And so the first is what we call the book selfie. We started this last year, and basically you cover your face with a book, and that part is really important because we want our students' identities to remain secure. And then there are a couple of questions that we ask you about the book and why you like to read it. Last year we had a couple of students participate in this, and if you click on this image, you'll see them. But also we had a bunch of other adults in the community create the book selfies. And for the kids, this was really meaningful because 1, they felt like everyone was coming together on a shared goal around what they love to read and why they love to read. But it was also a really nice, encouraging visual for kids to get excited about their project and to create their own book selfie. So if you're interested in sharing your love for reading and what you're currently reading with students, we'd love for you to choose one of these templates and make a book selfie and share it with me, and I will make a web page and make it available to my students. Lastly, we have another opportunity through Flipgrid, which is to join our reading community. As some of our students are first-time readers, we are asking adults to read stories to them. Not entire stories, but just pieces of a book that you really enjoy, that you think the kids would connect to, that they might enjoy as well. And we do have a list of books if you're not really sure what might work. But I just want to show you real quick here. This is an example Flipgrid video. And basically you just come on, tell them a little bit about yourself, maybe the book that you're reading, and then read the book out loud. What I loved about this presentation was that Jen read a book, and she's also a Spanish speaker. And so there was a lot of Spanish in the book, so she knew it would really attract those students and engage them. So I thought that was really cool. And this one video ended up having the most views of all the videos by the students. And the students can also leave feedback by sharing different emoji responses. And so it's a safe way for them to communicate with the outside community and say thank you for engaging reading with them. So that's another way to help. And that's really it. I hope that we'll connect and you'll be interested in working with my students. We do have a lot of initiatives throughout the year. We have a poetry contest in April, a songwriting contest in the fall, and then we also do a project in December where students read holiday books and send them back to their families. So thank you so much for an opportunity to share a project with you, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Excellent, Kat. I will make sure to get your info right there in as well. Certainly the Twitter handle there for those looking for cool folks to follow. Now, you know, let's start with some of the projects you mentioned kind of right at the end of the presentation. if people are going to record themselves reading, there are any number of ways to do that, right? Is there a format that you kind of like, where is it, just setting up cell phone and press and record? Is it using a screencasting tool? Anything works, or what?
Absolutely. On that slide, there are some links to Flipgrid, which is a wonderful tool for education that's already set up to record with a device. You can use a phone, an iPad, or a computer, and all the links and the codes are right on that page. And so if you follow that, it will take you and walk you through the recording. It also has a set limit on it of 5 minutes, so that you don't end up recording a 2-hour book.
Oh, good. And for those who are thinking, click where? Below the recording, that is the program for this week, you'll see several links, one of which is the link to the slides that she's mentioning, and that can get you to all of these different pieces, connecting with Kat as well. So if you've never used Flipgrid, very cool tool, right? It's the kind of thing that allows people to share kind of video stories very quickly, just using their phone and camera. I mean, it's remarkably easy. And it's a free tool. I think Microsoft bought them.
They did, yeah, just last
year
spring.
or two ago, right? I mean, yeah, fairly recently, and immediately made all of the premium features available to everyone, which is a pretty cool thing for sure. Okay, you also mentioned a link for the book selfie. So with the book selfie, there's the visual that is you with a book, right? And so you're there, you got your book, however you're doing it. And what do you like people to add to the book selfie? So like if they're going to put something like that together, what should they do?
Yeah, I've created 2 templates. So depending on your platform of choice, there's Word and Google Doc. And when you open it up, it'll have some curated questions that you can answer. You can create your own. So it's totally open. When you send it to me, then I will put it into the right format to add to the website. And then students can scroll through. You'll see an example if you click on the student pictures of their page. It's a beautiful page, and you can really get stuck just reading book selfie after book selfie.
Cool. Yeah, no, I loved what was coming up in the slides. And should we be thinking in terms of then adding, just some text that tells a little bit about us as well then?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So feel free to share a little bit about yourself, just to help to build that virtual relationship.
You also talked about having kind of a community of people sharing books, and so I was thinking about, okay, so if you've got these kids reading and they're probably excited about reading, perhaps for the first time, and they're kind of in that space of like, oh wow, like this is what struck me as really amazing about this book. How do they share their impressions? Can you do that via audio files, protect their identity? I mean, there's a lot of tools out there for that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So this year we'll be using Soundtrap. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that tool, but we used it for our Unsung initiative to create songs, but it's also a wonderful podcasting tool. And Soundtrap, who was recently purchased by Spotify, has been very, very accommodating to us. In fact, they provided 700 free accounts in the fall and are going to do the same thing for Unbound. And basically, students will be able to podcast their process through the readathon, and then we'll put together some snippets of that and release a podcast at the end of the month.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Soundtrap. The founder is actually Frederick Passe and Per Emmanuel. I think I'm messing up their last names, but Frederick and Per are like all of these guys are people who just love music and found this thing that they could do, and interested in tech and in Stockholm, and just wildly cool people. I mean, that's actually kind of our interest, right? Is in sharing our stories, we're sharing the stories of wildly cool people. When we think about these kids who are incarcerated, for a lot of them, they may not have a sense that there's all of these wildly cool and interesting people out there that they might learn about and say, wow, that's really cool that someone's out there doing that. And I think I believe the program for the week previous to this one, which is a bit of a time-space configuration thing going on, is about a guy who started Magic Wheelchair, right? To get costumes for kids in wheelchairs, and I mean, for a lot of kids in secure settings, I can imagine that learning about something like that would be really amazing. I mean, you must have plenty of stories about your interactions with these kids.
Absolutely. I think, what's really interesting is sometimes they're very limited by the scope in which they grow up in. And so One thing that we've had a lot of success with is introducing our kids to coding. A
Mhm.
lot of them just have inherent coding skills, and they jump into it head first and truly understand and work through incredible programs going all the way to the advanced placement level very quickly. And we've had 2 students from our coding initiative last year go on to major in coding in college programs when they were released. And I
That's
think,
great.
isn't that amazing? And a
Yeah.
lot of them just say they just weren't exposed to it. And
Right.
so that exposure is really critical, like you said.
Yeah. So many of the really interesting programs in schools aren't available to people who don't have good academic histories, right?
Mhm.
And so it's no mystery that they may not have had a chance to do this. But on the other hand, you think about kids who have perfectly good academic histories, and often for them, they've learned to play the game, right? How school works, how to get the good grades, how to please the teacher, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's certainly value to that. But a lot of the kids who end up in secure settings are kids who have no interest in the game, right? They're very blunt and honest, in my experience, about the circumstances of their lives and what they're interested in. And so the idea of taking on something that's very kind of blunt and honest, which coding is, right? The computer does exactly what you tell it to do, right? And if you mess it up, you're like, why didn't it do what I said? Because you didn't say it the way you wanted to do it. And so, I mean, fantastic that you're giving those kids that opportunity. How many kids are you guys serving, and where?
So currently, right now, there are about 60,000 kids locked up in the United States.
Wow.
And so we work with populations from halfway houses to detentions to long-term secure. And now there's kind of a big movement, and we're doing a lot of work inside of jails. So kids who are awaiting adult charges, who are locked up with an adult population and maybe don't quite have access to school, or schools just kind of being provided for them now. And some of those kids, they're pre-adjudicated, and they can wait longest of all kids to go to trial. So sometimes 2-3 years before they're found guilty or not.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of being severely restricted for 2 to 3 years, and then being found innocent, and you've just lost 2 to 3 years of your childhood, right? I mean,
Absolutely. And a lot of that, it comes down to bail, just
yeah.
$200-300 of bail, if not more, that kids unfortunately are unable to provide, and therefore are going to sit in a jail until they go to court.
Yeah, a number of states, I believe, have removed bail requirements, recognizing that it essentially becomes a have not issue, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned also with Soundtrap, you mentioned Unjammed. Can you tell a little bit more about that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 7 years ago, we started a program where we brought in schools from 7 to 10 states each year and did a big conference around technology integration and blended learning.
Mhm.
And as schools went through that program in each state, we started offering a higher level version where it was about G Suite integration and Google and Chromebooks. And so we've been doing that, but now we've kind of changed the landscape of Unjammed and done more of a regional approach. Because we found that with state policies being so unique from state to state, that it had to be more personalized. And so I just actually got back from Florida, where we'll be hosting a South Florida Unjammed, and we have about 20 different schools that are interested in participating. And so we'll kind of be meeting their needs where they are. So based on what types of technologies they have in place and internet access, in some places we're plugging them in for the first time. In other places, we're moving them from hardwire to Wi-Fi. And in other places, we're just doing a totally new landscape of devices and really a different instructional model with Google integration.
Excellent. It's good to see these tools being used for these purposes, for sure. All
Absolutely.
right.
If you can imagine, the traditional classroom landscape is very different because we might only have 8 to 10 students in a class, but all of them are at a different point within the curriculum, grades maybe 8 through 12 in the same environment.
Right.
And so that blended learning tool can be really successful to meeting those students' unique needs.
Fantastic. And you also, I noted from material that you sent before, the Center for Educational Excellence in Alternative Settings. Say a little bit about the organization.
Absolutely. We're super small, which nobody ever knows. So that's kind of unique. So I'm based in Texas. My boss, David Dominici, who opened the Maya Angelou schools in Washington, is based in Washington. We have 2 folks who are based in Maryland and 1 in California. And through that, we have a consortium of states that we meet with throughout the year to kind of help move policy issues, help move technology, help with SPED and other regulations that need improving, really working with secure care and teachers to sort of create opportunities inside the classroom that are sort of just a more unique working situation than a traditional classroom, trying to get sort of the mindset of security and teachers on the same page. And then we also run 2 schools. So we have a school inside of a detention center and inside of the New Orleans Parish Jail that we run called the Travis Hill Schools. And we just opened this summer a welcoming project, which transitions students back into the community, giving them a lot of a tribe coordinator and mentors that help them through the process of kind of maintaining that integration.
I'm sure that for a lot of the kids, once they leave incarceration, they are in a far less structured and more challenging environment than they were when they were in jail, right? Mm-hmm. Do you guys have programs that are designed to help essentially try to address recidivism rates or anything like that? Just trying to help those kids stay out of correctional facilities?
Yeah, I think that's what everybody is working on right now is transition. And I would say that there are a lot of really good models out there. For us, it's the Welcoming Project to give kids sort of good mentors and advocates that they have at their disposal, because sometimes it's just not knowing where those resources are for you to get mental health support, to find healthcare, to make sure that you can make it to school. I know in the state of Texas, one of the #1 reasons that kids go back is truancy. And so a lot of times kids aren't welcomed back into their home school. And so they don't want to go to an alternative school because they're really trying to make some changes in their lives. And they just decide not to go to school, or the only school that will accept them is so far away that it makes it impossible for them to go. So those types of challenges can really only be mitigated by an adult. And that's kind of where we try to help. But every state is different and how they deal with transition. But I do know it's on the forefront of everyone's minds right now.
All right. Well, I will wind things down and pass it along to you for the final word. Before I do, though, let me say to all of our viewers, our members and guests, thank you very much for joining us. It's our goal to share cool stories like this all the time. And as always, if you encounter people who are doing really interesting things and you think, wow, that's really great that that's out there, I had never thought about that from that perspective before, anything along those lines, feel free to connect them with us. You can send things to programs at SiliconValleyRotary.com, and they will get to one of us, and we can reach out to them. And sometimes they answer, and boom, we get a really cool program. So do let us know, and also let us know you were here. There is the attendance form just down the way. We were talking G Suite earlier. It's a Google form, easy enough to do. And if you type in your address right, you'll get an email saying thank you for attending, which you can pass along to your club secretary if you are visiting and are working to make up a miss at your home club. Finally, there is the Discuss, D-I-S-Q-U-S section at the bottom of the page where we ask you to leave a comment. What did you think? What did you think of the program? What did you think of the meeting? The different things that we tell about, the inspirational video at the beginning, the jokes, all of the different pieces of what we try to put together to create an online space that is worthy of Rotary, right? Let us know what you think. So with that, I'd like to finish up and pass it over to Kat for the final word. Kat, cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I wanted to leave you with the tagline of our Unbound initiative, which is reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are.
Well said. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.